Hello, lovelies. Welcome to this episode of Lessons from the Universe with Jennifer Hall. I look forward to sharing my channeled message with you today, and if you love it, please remember to like, share, review, and subscribe. Right here, in this space, or in others like it, we feel safe. We feel loved. We feel understood. We make connections and we are freed by them. But on an average day, most of us feel different, perhaps alone. We wonder if there's others who think like us, and usually there are not. But it's not just spiritual, it's everything all the time because we are all so different. We often feel misunderstood because we are. We are so unique. We are so inexplicably made that no one can truly, completely understand who we are, what we feel, or why we behave as we do. And the sooner we release the idea that we need to understand these things in others, to understand everything about them, every thought in their head, the sooner we deeply accept the fact that we are not all the same. We are not all reacting from the same place, motivated by the same principles, thinking, feeling, expressing in the same way. The sooner we will set ourselves free from so desperately needing to be understood in every way on every level. We will be free to be exactly who we are, all while truly, selflessly, and for the sake of the self, communicating with and to others in a way that they can actually come as close as possible to understanding us. To understanding us and to being understood. I'm sure that we've talked about this before, but it has been circling around me in the past week. There's a lot changing right now. It's a new year, that is changes, but that's sort of a universal thing floating in the air. There's also astrological things that have been changing. All the planets have been in direct motion. This is actually a time of ease, right? You can think about it scientifically. All the planets are doing what they're quote unquote supposed to do, and there's ease. But this is received by people in two very different ways. Some people receive ease and enjoy it. Others turn it dark. They become fearful that the shoe is going to drop, that something will go wrong. This comes from a history of things, the way they were raised, their experiences in life, that things will go wrong, that smooth is temporary. This is something that can be challenging to overcome because we have to convince ourselves that calm is safe and calm is good. Throughout this, I have listened to countless people tell me they just don't understand, that somebody just doesn't understand, or that they just want to be able to speak their own language. Beloved, you can speak your own language. But if you really want to be understood, as close to understood as you can be, you must translate. You must think, how do I communicate with this human so they can hear me? Sometimes it's just picking the right time. Sometimes it's letting them talk till they're done talking first. Sometimes it's using the right metaphor, the right tone of voice. It is translating. We must do this if we want to be understood, and we must give in to the fact that we all speak different languages. And if we want to be understood, we must speak to that other person in a way they can understand. And hopefully they can do the same for us. But they can't all do that, beloved. Especially those of us on a spiritual path, we have a higher vantage point. And I don't mean this in any way to call anyone not smart. That's not what I'm saying. But if you imagine being up on the balcony, right? Up on the roof of a house, on a top of a statue, I don't care, right? From up here, we see more. We see past the trees. We see past the buildings. We can see farther. We can see more. Some people are standing on the ground. All they can see is what's right around them, the trees and the buildings. There's an enclosure in that makes their view smaller. It makes it harder for them to communicate in a different language. And so we get the sacred responsibility of being that translator. It is not that we are all alone. There's a quote that has been circling around me lately, and I even tried to find it, and I couldn't find who it was. I actually found a site that said they couldn't find who it was, which I thought was amusing, but I bet you've heard it. I am an island unto myself, surrounded by uncharted waters infested with sharks. Well, that's one way to think about life. Completely understood. All around me are things I don't understand. Infested with sharks? Holy crap, right? Beloved, people are not out to get us. That's for sure. And when they don't understand us, we can think of it in one and two ways. We can think, oh, I am alone, I am misunderstood. Or we can use this brilliant mind that we have been given, and we can say, let me choose new words. We can express it in a different way until we see that light of understanding in their eyes. As I was trying to find the author of the quote about being surrounded by sharks, what I found is where it probably started from. There's actually an English metaphysical poet named John Donne. I believe it's Donne, D-O-N-N-E. In like 1624, he wrote a book in which he said, "No man is an island entire to itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main." I like this. Now, if your brain immediately went to that each of us is part of the humanness of it all, we are, but that's not where I go. Each of us is a part of the main, the source, the universe. Call it God, call it energy, call it light, call it what you will. Those of you listening to my voice, without a doubt, did not make it 7.5 minutes in. If you do not feel connected to something that is bigger than you and me, as a part of that, there are no uncharted waters, and there are no sharks. There is just individualized expressions of the whole. And each is wearing a flesh suit with a mind, a brain that was given to them by their DNA that they approved of and chose before they were born. I do not believe any of it is just predestination, but I do believe there is a wisdom there. And so we each come in a level of darkness that we have chosen, surrounded by elders who we have chosen for the path that we will take while we were here, the layers we will have to peel off. Interesting side note that most of the truly awakened put pretty ugly layers around themselves, at least those my age and older. We did what I call trial by fire. That doesn't matter. We are part of something greater, a part of something bigger than us. And as that, we can lovingly, generously evaluate what language we must speak to become understood, and let go of the idea that they have to understand us in our words. There are few people who can, if any, and even the people who can understand you as much as possible, they just can't all the time. And if you think they can, you're wrong. And if they think they do, they're wrong too, because we all have different motivations. We are all so inexplicably unique, even twins. My twins have had almost exactly the same life. They have been together since the womb. This year is the first year they've even been in separate classes. The experiences have been almost exactly the same. Even an experience of having a trip or dinner with the family, each will perceive so differently. They will see the emotional reaction of me or their father or anyone else, and they will each receive it so differently. Because we are all so unique. How could we possibly expect anyone to understand every intricacy of who we are and what freedom we get when we no longer desire such things? Sometimes it feels like the death of a fairy tale. But when we let go, then the fairy tale becomes us. The happily ever after is the self to the self, and we do in that loving, generous, complete moment begin to attract more and more the individuals who can see us. And in that openness, we realize that many of them seem to be more different than alike, but that appearances are not everything. As I have opened myself up to let the universe be a beacon for the people who can be the most full and complete with me and our connection and our friendship and our love, I have found that some of the people who get the closest to understanding me have the most diverse experiences, are the most diverse individuals. They don't have to be like me to understand. And yet, who could possibly understand what's going on in my world completely and totally? Who can? Oh my goodness, I was so desperate to find people who thought like me that I lied to myself for many years, assuming that everybody did. That was some sort of false humility, right? And then I felt so alone. I remember even saying, I just want to be understood. But what I've learned is that the less I need it, the more I receive it. Partly because I strive to speak to be understood. I don't speak to my husband about anything important if he's tired, right? I don't speak to everyone the same way with the same words. You can call it semantics. I like to imagine that I'm translating into a new language, right? You don't speak French to the Vietnamese guy, right? Why would that make sense? And so, beloved, accept completely that you are unique. Empaths are the best or the worst at trying to convince themselves that everybody feels like they do and everybody thinks like they do. Honey, that's not true. Another empath may come as close as possible to understanding that. But even they can't, because we are all so inexplicably different. And you cannot just surround yourself with other empaths. That's not okay. That's not doing what you came here to do. We came to be in the world to help and to learn to understand ourselves. The understanding that we seek is the self to the self. It's not really other people. So lovingly, completely hear you. Quit arguing with yourself, within yourself. Listen to that voice that says, why are you behaving this way? Why are you thinking this? Don't think that, right? Quiet the chattering monkeys in your mind. Release the false ideas of who you are. And in doing so, you will find it easier and easier to speak a language that others can understand. And that, beloved, is the answer to the question, how do I find people who understand me? It always starts with the self to the self. Think about it. Let it soak in. Quit arguing with it. Quit arguing with me. I can hear some of you. Yes, it's fair. It's the whole point. Yes, it's real. I promise you. Give in. Be inexplicably unique. Be who you are and let others be who they are. Quit wishing that they were different, right? If you can't start with you, start with them. Quit wishing they were different. Quit wishing they thought differently. Quit wishing they heard differently or spoke differently. Let them be who they are. And in the process, you will let you be who you are. And in that is true freedom. Until next time, beloved, namaste.
Did I get your attention? Well, good. My name is Michelle, and I am the producer of Lessons from the Universe. I have known Jennifer for about 8 years. When I first met Jennifer, I was struggling with life. Well, let's be honest, we all do. I was dragging around a bag full of my past, and I lacked a clear direction for my future. I wanted so much more for my life. I just didn't know where to start. Then I met this feisty little brunette during a photo shoot. I knew instantly she was different and our lives would intersect for many years to come. I had no idea in how many ways or the profound impact this little brunette with a podcast would have in my life. The channeled messages Jennifer gave me turned on so many lights and opened so many doors inside myself. I let go of the past. The past I'd been dragging around for so long. Well, for the most part. I found myself morphing back into my old self. I was happier, more energetic, ready to do the next adventure, the next travel, just more outgoing in general. When Jennifer decided to start Lessons from the Universe podcast, I was 150% on board to support her in any way possible. I know the impact her channel messages had in my life. I also know the feeling of being lost and confused walking through life, feeling like you're alone. You'll benefit from the wisdom, clear messages, and content of this podcast. So I encourage each of you to show her some love in the form of monetary contributions. Even as little as $5 a month makes a big difference in supporting Lessons from the Universe. Think of it this way. For the price of a coffee or drink each month, you will be supporting these messages getting to even more listeners. For $20 a month, you get to spend some one-on-one time with Jennifer through the Patreon downloads. So if you have it, give it. If not, I hope it comes to you. Thank you for listening, and as always, have a great day.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Lessons from the Universe with Jennifer Hall. If you haven't already, I want to personally invite you to come out and find me on social media and at my webpage, psychicjenniferhall.com. If you are inspired by the podcast and want more content, consider clicking that Patreon button on Podbean, or you can support the show at paypal.me/universallessonsllc, or by visiting our swag shop at spreadshirt.com. You can find the direct link on my Facebook page and my webpage. If you have questions, consider attending one of my quarterly seminars here in Dallas, or book your own educational session from anywhere in the world using the link that you can find on Facebook or on my webpage. I am sending each of you love, light, clarity, and wisdom. And I want you to know that whether you realize it or not, there's a little brunette with a podcast that's got your back.